Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the First Pitch podcast on Pitcher List. My name is Trevor Hooth, and baseball, man, we are getting to the end of the regular season. My Tigers are, well, they're trying their best. Let's put it that way. Hey, they finally won. That's a good thing, right? Anyway, let's jump right in. We got some baseball to talk about. Of course, starting with the news, not a whole lot of it today, but a few things to take note of. Jeremy Pena of the Astros has an oblique strain. He's not on the IL. This was originally classified as more of a day-to-day thing, maybe just a couple days, but it seems like this could keep him out for a while longer. And this comes in addition to losing Yordan Alvarez, which, I mean, they're hoping to make the playoffs. They're vying for a spot here, and that's not great to lose both of those bats out of your lineup. They're thinking this Jeremy Pena thing could extend on a little bit longer rather than just the couple days it was supposed to be. So whatever level of injury it is to Jeremy Pena's oblique, it is not looking that good right now. We'll see how much longer he is out of that Astros lineup. Moving on to the Blue Jays, Jose Barrios lands on the injured list as Toronto's pitching takes, another hit. They did recently say Jose Barrios was going to work out of the bullpen. Then Chris Bassett landed on the IL. So not good news. Barrios is dealing with an elbow issue. It's elbow inflammation. He's been pretty steady this year. Things have dropped off as of late. His velo's been down as of late. That could be because of this elbow issue. But this leaves the Toronto rotation with Chris Bassett. Chris Bassett recently landed on the IL. My apologies. Kevin Gausman, Shane Bieber, Max Scherzer, Trey Savage, and then if they need to go another starter, which I don't think they will as they close out the regular season, Eric Lauer probably takes that role. They did have Lauer pitch out of the bullpen following Louis Varland in yesterday's game as they went with the bullpen game, but they are closing out the year without Jose Barrios and are, Barrios and Bassett on the IL. And the final bit of news, this is more looking forward towards what next season and next season's drafts could look like in redraft leagues, with the Cardinals all but rebuilding and heading into a rebuild, which is all but imminent at this point. Nolan Arenado and Sonny Gray have both said that they are willing, or at least more willing now, to waive their no-trade clauses. So that could have a few impacts. Off the top, that opens up a spot for J.J. Weatherholt if Nolan Arenado is in fact traded, and Sonny Gray moving signals maybe some more youth coming up out of their rotation in the future. But on the other side of that, their Arenado and Gray's value could depend on where the trades go to. We've seen players have their fantasy stock rise and fall based on trades. Jonathan India being traded was one example that came to mind when I was thinking through this. It was that Brady Singer trade where both guys kind of seemed to lose a little bit of fantasy stock when that real life trade happened. So we'll see what happens. Arenado, Sonny Gray might be on the move in the offseason, both willing to waive their no trade clause. Moving on to some highlights from yesterday's games, Francisco Lindor collected his 30th home run of the year. He officially has a 30-30 season, and this is his second home run in his last 3 games as Francisco Lindor continues to just be, consistent. He is always right around this mark of a 30-30 season, whether he surpasses it or comes up just short. He's never that far off. So just a pillar of consistency over a large portion of his career. Lindor officially a 30-30 season with 30 home runs and 31 steals at the time of recording this. Seiya Suzuki hit a pair of home runs off Nolan McLean, giving him 29 on the year. Now, notably, these are his only home runs over his last 30 games, but this number of 29 is his MLB high for long balls in one season. So, setting a good record, but it could have been better, man. That power just has gone somewhere. This pair of home runs that he had yesterday are the only ones he has in his last 30 games. Colson Montgomery picked up a couple hits for the White Sox, including a double, and he's had just a weird year. I've talked about his year extensively here, but going from striking out 40% of the time in AAA after thinking he might make the team out of spring training and then getting hurt. Comes back, a lot of strikeouts. They send him to Florida, work on your swing. And he comes back, he starts hitting a little bit. They say, all right, let's see what we got. And he comes up and he's done well in a lot of regards. He's had a lot of really good stretches at the big league level. He's got 19 home runs in his time in the big leagues this year, but he is hitting 231 with a near 30% strikeout rate. He should get plenty of extended run, Colson Montgomery, but the question is, how big is your risk appetite when it comes to what do you do with him, in the future? It's hard to believe that anything positive is going to come out of it just because of the recent history. But if it does, man, Colson Montgomery is going to shoot up like a rocket. It is a high risk, high reward type player when you are planning on what am I going to do in your leagues next year. The Tigers, they snapped their losing streak. I mentioned it at the top of this podcast. They did it on the strength of home runs from Jamie Jones, Wenceel Perez, and Riley Green. Of course, Riley Green, my guy, 36 home runs, but he does have a 30% strikeout rate, and I think this is kind of where he may settle in. The strikeout rate may drop a little bit, but he has such a steep bat path that the strikeouts are always going to be a part of his game, but he will be able to get to this power. It's just a matter of him doing more damage than he does getting hurt by those strikeouts. Phenomenal talent. Still think there's a lot more in the tank for him. I am big on what Riley Green can be over the next few years. Moving on to the Dodgers, Freddie Freeman hit a pair of bombs. He's got 23 on the year while hitting 293. And one of my biggest whiffs on the year, Andy Pages. I was selling. He's got 27 home runs, hitting 276 on the year. And he's swinging more this year, just a little bit. He has a lower walk rate than he has in years past as well. So Pages having a good year, showing something different than what he has been. And again, man, that was a huge whiff on my part. I was selling and I should not have. He was great this year. And of course, as mentioned earlier, Freddie Freeman with a pair of bombs for the Dodgers. Another player, the third one that I've talked about on this podcast, who had 2 home runs yesterday, Nick Kurtz. Who else? I mean, my goodness, 35 home runs in his rookie year, hitting 293 as this season comes to a close. And Kurtz, is looking every bit the part of a super high pick heading into next year, potentially the top first baseman off the board. If not, he's not going to fall below the second. He's been so good. Hard to imagine I would want to draft anybody over him if I were going to go for getting a top first baseman. I think that's got to be him heading into next year. Now, stop me if you've heard this before. Another player joining the 2 home run in one game club from yesterday's game, Byron Buxton. He went yard twice. He's got 34 on the year. That makes 4 players who had 2 home runs in the games yesterday. And if you're in a fantasy playoff and you are facing a guy who has 1 or 2, if somebody's rostering Buxton, Kurtz, Freeman, or Suzuki, maybe even a couple of them, man, that's a killer right there. But Byron Buxton up to 34 home runs on the season. Kobe Mayo picked up his 10th home run. He's hitting 216 through 255 at bats. And Dylan Beavers also hit one. That's his 4th. Ryan Mountcastle hit his 7th. Mayo and Beavers are going to be very interesting heading into next year. Mayo has a ton of power. He just hasn't really put it together hitting consistently at the big league level. And Dylan Beavers, kind of more of a pop-up guy this year, but was putting up insane numbers at AAA. So it's going to be, I don't know. If he has a role next year, he's going to be maybe a huge sleeper, I think, next year. And the Angels, 3 home runs courtesy of Joe Adell hitting his 37th, Nolan Shanuel hitting his 12th, and Mike Trout hitting his 23rd. Adell and Shanuel, for me, are interesting decisions come draft time next year. Adell is broken out this year, a lot of power. He's hitting 237. His strikeout rate is down closer to the mid-20s, which is much more manageable than what we usually associate with Joe Adell. This is the kind of year that's going to make him probably fairly expensive next year, considering, and again, it's just a risk appetite thing because he could regress, or this could be what Joe Adell is. He's still young and finally getting some good playing time here. And Nolan Shanuel, he's even more interesting, I think, because he's going to be cheap. He does not have the power that you expect from the first base position, but he hits the ball. He can hit for an average. Um, his EVs are up. A lot of his hitting and power metrics are up this year from previous years. His max EVs up about 4 miles an hour to 109.8. His barrel hard hit are up too. So he's hitting the ball harder, and that could lead to more home runs down the line. I don't know. I think that could be interesting heading into next year. Moving on to some starting pitching, got a handful of those to talk about. Nolan McLean for the Mets, still absolutely nuts with his stuff. He struck out 11 over 5 1/3. However, the hit did come with him giving up 3 home runs, totaling 5 earned runs. In his time at the big leagues, 57 strikeouts, 2.06 ERA through 48 innings. Nolan McLean couldn't be more in. Parker Messick struck out 7 over 5 innings against the Tigers. He allowed 3 home runs as well and 5 earned runs. Taking the loss, he's been so reliable. ERA is 2.72 following this outing, and this was really the first bad one he's had. Jansen Junk for the Marlins allowed 1 earned run, struck out 4 against the Phillies, but he took the loss because he did not have any run support. On the other side of that matchup was Walker Buehler, who beat him by throwing 5 shutout innings and striking out 2 while walking 3. Since joining the Phillies, Buehler has a .66 ERA with 8 strikeouts through 13 2/3 innings. Regression may be on the way. He also has 6 walks in that time. But Walker Buehler has found something, at least in the short term, with Philadelphia. Jakuma's no surprise. Yoshinobu Yamamoto continues to impress, tossing 6 shutout innings with 7 strikeouts. Framber Valdez for the Astros, reaching double-digit strikeouts. He had 10 of them across 7 innings, allowing just a run. And for the season, Valdez has 192 innings and 187 strikeouts with a .366 ERA. Bailey Ober, in the middle of a tough year, showed out against the Rangers. Great game for Ober, throwing 6 shutout innings, scattering 2 hits and a walk while striking out 5. Unfortunately, he still has a .510 ERA for the season. A couple other starters to talk about. Emerson Hancock struck out 7 over 4 shutout innings, scattering a pair of hits, and he's kind of been up and down, both in terms of, pitching for the Mariners or pitching in the minors, and with performance. He's had some really good ones. Throw this one in the good category. And Nick Lodolo, probably the best day of any starter that I'm going to talk about here today, striking out 12 across 6 1/3 shutout innings. And on the season, Lodolo has 155 2/3 innings with a .330 ERA. The scary part here, this is the healthiest he has been. This is his 4th season as a pro, and he's thrown 40 more innings this year than he has in any other of his pro seasons. If he's healthy, this could be the Lodolo that we come to know and love. But the health has been a big question at this point of his career. It's great to see him healthy, great to see him out there. Just makes it a little scary if you're basing your valuation on what he did this year, because, again, this is significantly more innings than he's thrown at any level at the big leagues to this point in his young career. Hopefully all the injury stuff is behind him, but it does add a question mark. I'm going to take a quick timeout right now. When I come back and talk about some of the pitchers coming up later today. I do appreciate you joining me once again. My name is Trevor Hooth, and this is the First Pitch Podcast on Pitcher List. And welcome back to the First Pitch Podcast on Pitcher List. My name is Trevor Hooth. Thanks so much for being here. We've talked news, we've talked hitting, we've talked pitching from yesterday's games. Let's take a look at what we got coming up today. A few pitchers to talk about. Guys, some interesting names, I should say. Cade Cavalli of the Nationals. He's going to be taking on Yoendrys Gomez and the White Sox. Cavalli had some prospect hype behind him at one point. Injuries slowed him down. Cavalli blanked the Mets through 5 innings last time out. The strikeouts just have not been there. He struck out 3. His strikeout rates are low, but if you're looking for just a little padding, if you can put another good outing together against the White Sox, which is a good matchup, that could be pretty good for you, especially since, we're in playoff time for fantasy. And I would love to say you could trust Yoendrys Gomez, but he's just not been good lately. I was such a fan. I had high hopes he'd close this season out and be a name to keep talking about. But unfortunately, that is not how things have played out over the last few weeks. Kyle Harrison lined up to face what is still a struggling Tigers club despite their win yesterday. And Harrison made his first start in a Red Sox uniform last weekend, allowing 1 run over 6 innings with 5 strikeouts against the Rays. With a struggling lineup, Kyle Harrison might be interesting, especially coming off of a good outing as he did last time out. Sandy Alcantara taking on Brandon Sproat and the Mets. Alcantara coming off back-to-back outings where he struck out 8. So he's got 16 strikeouts over his last 2 starts. And he's done well against the Mets this year. In 2 starts, he's totaled 12 innings, 10 strikeouts, 3 earned runs. And I know that Sandy Alcantara is not a guy that is trustworthy this year. He has been bad most of the time, and he's had some good moments and a good stretch even. But seems like he has the Mets number a little bit, and he's been striking guys out lately. That makes it interesting. I can't quit it. I cannot do it. And finally, the matchup of the day, Noah Cameron versus what is supposed to be Luis Morales. Noah Cameron obviously having a phenomenal rookie year. Luis Morales, electric stuff, some inconsistencies there, definitely some walk potential to be had. The ace starter is listed as TBD, but in my research, everything kept saying Luis Morales. So in theory, that's who's starting. He had a rough time last outing, but if he's on, that's going to be really good going up against Noah Cameron, who's been good this year. So that could be a fun one. Noah Cameron for sure. Maybe Luis Morales, assuming that my research is not incorrect, which it very much could be. Again, listed as TBD at this moment. But if that's what it turns out to be, Cameron versus Morales, that is a super fun one. With that, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I appreciate you joining me. This has been another edition of the First Pitch Podcast on Pitcher List.